Thank you, Andrew. So we are now starting the 2022 Ubuntu Summit event. This is an event that we did once before last year in 2021. So we are now in the second phase of this event. So I would like to say first, of course, welcome to the Ubuntu Summit 2022 event, which is taking place today, Global Cooperation Day. It is October 4th, 2022. So what I'm going to do is I will start presentation and then share my screen. Give me 1 second to do so. Logistics of Zoom meetings. Share screen. Oh, there we go. Joseph, thank you for joining us, and Ruth as well. Am I allowed to share screen? Okay, there we go. So we have our opening screen here for 2022. What I would like to say is this event is being hosted by UnityNet International, which is building the Global Unity Network, also known as UnityNet. So the Ubuntu Summit, is organizing through the ad hoc and being supported through the ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, or AHIABGA, as well. And this is event hosted by the AHIABGA UN Global Compact Local Networks 21 to 23 Event Planning and Strategy Group for Global Cooperation Day, which is today, of course, October 4th, as the first day of the newly named Youth Peace Week, which is also known as the Climate Smart Youth Forum Week. So this is the launch event, which last year in 2021 was a follow-up event of the Cairo Summit, a virtual reality experience platform event that took place from May 25th to 29th, 2021. So in 2021, the Ubuntu Summit team actually consisted of myself, Lloyd Halferty, as well as Andrew Williams Jr., who is our host today as well, from Andrew Networks, along with Pradeep Sapkota from UnityNet Nepal, and Carlos Richard Sancos from UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. At this time, just give me 1 second. I'm going to put my contact information into the chat as well for people to contact me if they wish to do so. Hold on a second, I'm getting a call. Stop that. So what I would also like to do is a land acknowledgement as we begin all of our events. I do like to do that. So to acknowledge those who came before us on this land, I do say this land acknowledgement. So we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We are grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we're on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We'd also like to thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. In that as well, I'd like to say at the beginning of these meetings, the word Sawubona. This means I see you, I see myself in you, I see your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. I see your ancestors as well. because interconnectedness does not end with the two people who are greeting each other. It extends to include the ancestors. All beings and Mother Nature are interconnected. There is no sense of being separate. I see myself in all beings, and therefore, if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. So now, during this event, I'd like to stress the importance of dialogue, being open to learning, including across cultural, religious, and language barriers, reconciliation, responsibility, forgiveness, nonviolence, conscientious objection, and ways to be appreciative of others' culture and values. This event today is the telling of the little-known story of Saint Francis, patron saint of animals and the environment, and how he came to meet al-Malik al-Kamil, a powerful 13th century Muslim ruler, and how that encounter changed history and ultimately led to the end of the Crusades. Saint Francis of Assisi was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church only two years after his death, is perhaps the best known medieval saint among Catholics, Protestants, and people of other religions. He founded the Franciscan order of friars, or monks, which still exists today. Francis was born in 1181, sometimes thought of 1182, in Assisi, a town in modern Italy. In 1212, Francis undertook a journey to the east to preach in Muslim lands. But it was not until 1219 that Francis finally traveled to Egypt and Syria with the Crusader forces, arriving during the siege of Damietta. He was horrified by the carnage of the siege and its aftermath. He made efforts at peace and preached among the Christian soldiers and their leaders. He also daringly crossed the battle lines into the camp of the Ayyubid, the leader al-Malik al-Kamil, and accompanied by his brother Illuminato. He came before the Sultan, saying that he wanted to preach Christian gospel and save the Sultan and his Muslim companions' souls. The Sultan received Francis graciously and allowed him to preach, since such conversations about religion at the courts of Muslim rulers were not uncommon. The two friars were offered gifts and rights to serve as guardians of certain places in the Holy Land, which Francis and his companions next visited. At this critical moment in history, Francis was willing to reach across religious lines without fear, taking a huge risk of failure from his own and the Muslim side. He was also curious and able to absorb new ideas and information that he witnessed. This was an indication that he was open to learning from others about their ways of worship and was appreciative of others' culture and values. He also felt a responsibility to cultivate peace and end conflict for the greater good, and was able to conduct dialogue with others across cultural, religious, and language barriers. So I'd like to try to define humanism as well. Although the meaning of the term humanism has changed according to the success of intellectual movements that have identified it, humanism is currently considered to be a philosophical stance that emphasizes the individual and social potential and agency of human beings. It considers human beings as the starting point for serious, moral, and philosophical inquiry. It's sometimes simply defined as a devotion to the humanities, which means any system or mode of thought or action in which human interests, values, and dignity predominate. In most definitions of humanism, humans are considered basically good and rational creatures who can improve themselves and others through the human abilities of reason and action. Secular humanism is a late development emphasizing objectivity, human reason, and human standards that govern art, economics, ethics, and belief. Most humanists believe that human beings are born with moral value and have a responsibility to help one another live better lives. Although humanism actually emphasizes reason and science over scripture or religious texts and tradition, but does not necessarily exclude it entirely. but encompasses faith as being an essential part of what being human means. So I would like now to show the film, The Sultan and the Saint. So this version has Arabic subtitles, but it is in English. So I'd like to ask and make sure that everybody is muting their microphones. The runtime for the film is under 1 hour, about 56 minutes or so. So what I will do is, again, I switch the screen over to one of my